The maintenance schedule was sound. The real failure was the technician who serviced the system. This is Ethan, and this failure belongs to that man.
Arthur Vance.
I filmed the entire valve assembly myself to protect the company. Let me walk you through the footage.
Play the footage again from the start. Slower.
This footage is low resolution. The small details are hard to make out.
Victor, does that small seal look broken to you? It is not hard to tell at all. Whose decision it was to change the inspection schedule?
The most powerful woman on that red-eye was asleep on the shoulder of a man whose name she had never once bothered to ask. Outside, the storm threw the whole cabin sideways. Lightning turned the little oval windows white for half a second at a time, then let the dark rush back in. And Claire Whitmore, chief executive of a company worth more than most towns will ever see, slept with her cheek pressed to the flannel shoulder of a stranger in a work jacket, because somewhere over the plains her body had simply given out. Ethan Cole did not move. His arm had gone numb an hour ago. His lower back ached against the thin seat, and somewhere ahead of him in the dark was a hospital where, in 2 days, a doctor would lay a cold stethoscope against his 7-year-old daughter's chest and decide how much of her life she got to keep. He had a folded scarf in his pocket that used to be his wife's. He had $11 in his wallet, and he had a little girl at home who could not fall asleep unless she was holding that scarf against her chest. A girl who was the whole reason he was on the ugliest flight in America tonight. He could have shifted the sleeping woman off. He didn't. To understand why a tired man would sit dead still for 4 hours so a stranger could sleep, you have to know Ethan Cole. He was 38, broad through the shoulders, quiet in a way that people sometimes mistook for slow. He fixed heating and cooling systems for a contractor called Ridgeline Mechanical. Boilers, air handlers, the great humming machines in the bellies of office towers that nobody thinks about until the day they stop. He had good hands and a careful mind, and he had spent 15 years learning that the most important work is the work no one ever sees. He was also raising a 7-year-old daughter alone. His wife, Anna, had died 2 winters back. It had been fast, the way the worst things sometimes are. A diagnosis in October, a funeral before the first thaw. She had left behind a closet Ethan still could not open all the way. A daughter with her exact stubborn chin, and a soft gray scarf that Anna used to fold into a perfect square every night and set on the bedpost. Ethan carried that scarf everywhere now, folded the same careful way, tucked into the inside pocket of his jacket over his heart. He did not talk about it. He just kept it close, the way you keep the last of something you cannot get back. Their daughter was named Lily. She was small for her age and brave in a way that broke him a little every day. She had been born with a heart that did not close the way it should have, a hole between 2 chambers that the doctors had watched and measured for years, waiting to see if she would grow into a repair or a surgery. In 2 days, there was an appointment in Denver. A scan, a consultation, a decision. The kind of appointment a father does not miss. So when the job in Chicago ran 3 days long, and the last direct flight was canceled, and the airline offered him a storm-battered red-eye through the weather, Ethan took it. He would have walked home if the sky let him. He had $11 in his wallet, and a checking account he tried not to look at. Anna's illness had swallowed their savings whole. Lily's care was swallowing what came after. He worked every hour Ridgeline would give him, and some they didn't pay for, and he told himself, most nights, that it was enough, that he was enough. Some nights he even believed it. Claire Whitmore had boarded that plane like a woman being chased. She came down the aisle in a charcoal suit that had cost more than Ethan's truck. One heel catching on the carpet, a phone pinned to her ear, with her shoulder, and a laptop bag sliding off the other. She was 44, and she had not truly slept in 4 days. Her company, Vantage Climate Group, owned and managed office towers across a dozen cities, And one of those towers, back in Chicago, had nearly killed someone the week before. A pressure valve on a chilled water system had failed on the 22nd floor. A pipe had burst above a full conference room. By some grace, no one was under it when the ceiling came down. But the photos had reached the board, and the board had reached Claire, and Claire had spent 4 sleepless days trying to understand how a system her people swore was maintained to code had come apart at the seams. She dropped into the window seat beside Ethan without looking at him. She saw the work jacket, the scuffed boots, the tired, unshaven jaw, and she filed him where she filed most people that first cold instant, as furniture, something to sit beside. She did not mean it cruelly. Somewhere in 20 years of climbing, she had simply stopped seeing the people who did not matter to the next thing on her list. "Long day?" Ethan said, because his mother had raised him to be kind to strangers on airplanes. "You have no idea," Claire answered, already opening her laptop. He let her be. The plane lifted into the weather, and the weather did not like it. The cabin bucked and dropped. The seatbelt light chimed and stayed on. A baby 3 rows up began to cry, and a young mother's voice went soft and desperate, trying to quiet him. Claire kept working. Spreadsheets, emails, a red-lined report with the word liability across the top, in a font meant to frighten, until a hard jolt slammed her laptop half shut on her fingers, and she said a word under her breath that CEOs are not supposed to say. "You'll want to put that away," Ethan said quietly. "It's going to get worse before it gets better." "And you know that how?" "I know machines. Planes are just angrier machines." He almost smiled. "This one's fine. The pilot's just going around the tall stuff. Give it an hour." She looked at him then. Really looked, for the first time. There was something in the flat calm of him that steadied her, more than she wanted to admit. She closed the laptop. She slid it into the seat pocket, and for a while, in the dark, 2 strangers sat side by side and said nothing, and it was the first quiet Claire had felt in 4 days. "I have a girl about that age," Ethan said, when the baby up front finally hushed. He wasn't sure why he said it. Maybe because the dark makes people honest. "You do?" 7. Lily. His voice went somewhere soft. "She's got a scan in a couple days. Her heart. There's a thing they've been watching since she was born. They'll tell us Thursday if they need to go in." Claire, who negotiated for a living, who could read a lie across a boardroom, heard the truth in it and had no report to hide behind. "Is she scared?" she asked. "She's braver than me." He turned the wedding ring he still wore. "Her mom passed a while back, so it's just us. I couldn't be there this week for work, and that's not a thing I do. Miss things. So I'm on the ugliest flight in America to make sure I'm home when she wakes up." Claire did not say "I'm sorry," because it never means anything. She said, "Then we'd better land." He did smile then, and somewhere in the next hour, worn down past the last of her armor, the most powerful woman on the plane fell asleep, and her head, by no decision of her own, came to rest against the shoulder of the man in the work jacket. She would have been mortified. She would have apologized a dozen times. But she was so deeply, finally asleep that she never knew it happened. Ethan felt her go slack against him. He looked down at this stranger, this exhausted person the storm had set beside him, and he thought of Anna, who used to fall asleep on him in exactly that way on long drives, trusting him to keep them on the road. And he decided the kindest thing he could do for a tired person was to be a wall she could lean on. So he stayed still, arm numb, back aching, home so far away he could taste it. Ethan Cole held himself like stone, so a woman he did not know could rest. Then the plane dropped. It was a real drop, the kind that lifts everything not tied down. Overhead, a bin popped open. A bag came loose and swung, and across the aisle, the young mother's diaper bag tipped from her lap, and with it, a small blanket, and a stuffed rabbit tumbled toward the floor, and the woman lunged and could not reach because her arms were full of a screaming baby. Ethan moved without thinking. His free hand shot out and caught the rabbit an inch above the aisle floor, then swept the blanket up after it, folding it against his chest as the plane steadied. He handed both back to the mother across the aisle. "Got him," he said gently. He's okay." The woman's eyes filled. "Thank you," she whispered. "He can't sleep without it." "I know how that is," Ethan said, and he tucked the little rabbit back into the child's arms with the same care he gave everything small and breakable. He did not know that Claire had half woken at the drop, that through the fog of the deepest sleep she'd had in a week, she had watched a stranger in a work jacket reach out in the middle of a storm, not to save himself, but to catch a child's stuffed rabbit before it hit the floor. She watched him fold that blanket like it mattered. Then she watched him settle back, careful not to jostle her, and go still again so she could keep resting. She closed her eyes. She thought, in the last soft edge before sleep took her back under, "Whoever you are, the world could use more of you." She would remember that, sooner than she knew. Morning came gray and rinsed clean over Denver. The storm had blown itself out somewhere over the mountains, and the plane came down through torn clouds into ordinary light. Claire woke with her cheek warm and a stiffness in her neck, and the slow, horrible understanding of where her head had been. She sat up fast, straightening her jacket, her face going hot. "I am so sorry," she said. I never do that." "You needed it," Ethan said simply. "No harm done." They filed off the plane into the churn of the terminal, two strangers about to be swallowed by their separate mornings. And Claire, reaching into the seat pocket for her laptop bag, found a soft gray scarf on the floor at her feet, half unfolded. She thought it was hers for a moment, then remembered it wasn't. She turned. Ethan was already 3 rows up, but he stopped when she called out. "Yours, I think," she said, holding out the scarf. Something crossed his face. She could not read it then, but she would understand it later. He came back and took the scarf from her hands with a strange, quiet reverence, and he folded it, right there in the aisle, into a perfect square, corner to corner, smooth, a motion worn into his hands by 2 years of doing it every single night in his daughter's doorway. "Thank you," he said. "This one I can't lose." "It's special?" "It was my wife's." He tucked it back into the pocket over his heart. "Lily sleeps with it when the appointments get close. Says it still smells like her mom. It doesn't anymore, but I don't tell her that." Claire did not have a word ready. For once in her life, she had nothing to sell and nothing to win, and a total stranger had left her completely, honestly speechless. He gave her a small nod, the kind that says, "Be well," and then the crowd took him, and he was gone into the terminal before she thought to ask his name. She stood there a moment longer than she meant to. Then her phone lit up with 14 new messages, and Claire Whitmore was pulled back into her life. The man she was flying to war over, she had just said goodbye to him. She only did not know it yet. The disaster in the Chicago Tower had a face now, and the face belonged to a consultant named Victor Prine. Victor was the kind of man Claire had hired 100 times. Sharp suit, sharper smile, a firm that specialized in operational efficiency, which was a polite way of saying he found the places where a company spent money and cut them. Vantage had brought him in a year ago to trim maintenance costs across the tower portfolio, and trim he had. He had renegotiated the service contracts. He had stretched the inspection schedules. He had, in his own words to the board, eliminated redundant labor hours. The numbers had looked wonderful in the slides. And now a pipe had burst, and Victor Prine needed the numbers to keep looking wonderful. By the time Claire reached the office 2 days later, running on airport coffee and the memory of a stranger's steadiness, Victor had already built his case. He stood at the head of the glass conference table, clicker in hand, and he laid the blame down clean and cold. He believed every word of it. That was the thing about Victor. He had spent so long turning people into line items that he had genuinely stopped seeing them as anything else. And he stood there certain, almost serene, sure he had been thorough, sure the fault lay anywhere but with him. The failure wasn't the maintenance schedule, he told the board. The schedule was sound. The failure was the technician. Ridgeline Mechanical had a man servicing that chilled water system the month before. He signed off on the pressure valve. He certified it, and then it blew. Either he never actually inspected it, or he broke the seal on the relief assembly and reset it wrong. Negligence. It's on the contractor, not on us. I'd recommend we terminate the Ridgeline agreement, put the liability on their insurance, and issue a statement naming the individual responsible. He put a name on the screen. Ethan Cole. Claire's coffee stopped halfway to her mouth. I have documentation, Victor went on, pleased with himself. I was on site during the follow-up. I filmed the whole assembly to protect the company. It's all there. His work, his signature, the failed valve. I'll walk you through it. He dimmed the lights and played the video. And Claire watched, and Claire's whole body went cold and still, because she knew that name. And now, in grainy phone footage, she knew that face. The same tired jaw, the same careful hands. The man from the plane. The man who had caught a child's rabbit in a storm. The man who had folded his dead wife's scarf into a perfect square in an airplane aisle and told her, "This one I can't lose." That was the man Victor Prine wanted to hang. "Play it again," she said, "from the start. Slower." Victor blinked. "Claire, I don't think we need to." "Play it again." He played it again. And this time Claire did not watch Ethan's face. She watched his hands, the way you watch a man who you already know does not cut corners. She watched him work the relief assembly. And she watched him reach the safety seal, the little numbered tag that gets snapped when the valve is opened and must be replaced and logged if the internals are touched. The seal was intact. "Stop," she said. "There, the seal on the relief valve. Is that broken?" Victor's smile flickered. It's hard to tell at that resolution. It's not hard to tell at all. Claire stood. She walked to the screen, and she put her finger on the frozen image of a small plastic tag, whole and unbroken, exactly where Ethan Cole's careful hands had left it. The seal is unbroken. He never opened the internal assembly, which means he couldn't have reset it wrong, because he never touched it. He inspected the exterior, logged what he was contracted to log, and left the valve sealed and certified, exactly as the scope of work allowed. Your scope of work, Victor. The scope you cut. The room was very quiet. Whose decision was it? Claire said slowly. To change the service contract so the full internal valve inspection was dropped to every 3rd year, instead of every year. Victor said nothing. It's in your own report, Claire said. Page 11. Eliminated redundant internal inspections. You took the deep inspection off the schedule to save $40,000 a year across the portfolio. That valve hadn't had its internals checked in 26 months because you decided it didn't need to be. This man, she pointed at the screen, at the frozen, tired face of Ethan Cole, did every single thing he was allowed to do, and did it right, and left you a sealed record proving it. And you were going to put his name in a press release and end his career to hide your own. Claire, Victor said, and his voice had lost all its polish. You can't seriously take a maintenance tech's side over. I'm not taking his side, Claire said. I'm reading your video. You filmed the proof of his innocence yourself, and you were counting on no one looking closely enough to see it. She turned to the board. We are not terminating Ridgeline. We are not naming that man. We are reinstating annual internal inspections across every property, effective today, and we are going to be very honest, publicly, about why a pipe burst in our building. It burst because we tried to save $40,000 a year on the machines that keep 900 people safe. That's on us. That's on me. She looked back at the screen one last time. And get me a contact for that technician. There's something I owe him. 2 mornings later, in a bright waiting room at Denver Children's, Ethan sat with his knees bouncing and his hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee he hadn't touched. Lily was down the hall in a gown 3 sizes too big, clutching a folded gray scarf against her chest. The scan was over. Now there was only the waiting. He had learned to hate the minutes before a doctor comes. He noticed everything in them. The clock on the wall didn't tick so much as flinch. A small dry click every long second, loud in the hush. A cartoon played with the sound off in the corner. On the chair beside him, Lily had left her own small scarf. A bright one, hers, not Anna's, folded into a lopsided square because she was learning to do it the way her daddy did. Ethan looked at that crooked little square of cloth and had to look at the door at the end of the hallway instead, because his eyes had started to sting and there was no one there to be brave for at the moment except himself. The door opened. The doctor came smiling. The hole in Lily's heart, it turned out, had done the thing the doctors had hoped it might do for 7 years. It had grown smaller as she grew larger. No surgery, Not now, maybe not ever. Watch and wait, and let her be a kid. Ethan put his face in his hands and did not care who saw. He was still sitting there, wrung out, when his phone rang from a number he didn't know. He almost let it go. He answered on the last ring. "Mr. Cole?" a woman's voice said. "You probably won't remember me. I fell asleep on your shoulder somewhere over Nebraska." Ethan laughed. A startled, wet, exhausted laugh. "I remember. I owe you an apology, and a great deal more than that," Claire said. "But first, your daughter. Thursday's appointment. How is she?" And Ethan, who had told a stranger the truth in the dark, because the dark makes people honest, told her the good news, and heard the powerful woman on the other end of the line go quiet in a way that had nothing to do with business. Then she told him the rest, about Victor, about the video, about the unbroken seal that had spoken for him when he wasn't in the room to speak for himself. "They were going to put my name where?" Ethan said. He had gone very still. "In a statement, to the public, as the careless man who caused it." Claire let that sit. "It's not going anywhere now. And Mr. Cole, I want you working for me. A supervisor's position, on the maintenance side, every tower we own. I want the man with the careful hands looking after those machines." Ethan was quiet a moment. "I appreciate it. I do. But you don't owe me a job for sitting still on an airplane." "That's not why." "Then I'll take the Ridgeline contract if you're keeping it, and that's more than fair." "You don't have to. There's a number," Claire said, and she said it. "The salary. Flat and plain, the way you set down something heavy." Ethan sat down. He hadn't realized he'd been standing. In the bright waiting room, with his daughter's crooked little scarf folded on the chair beside him, he sat down and said nothing at all. "And Lily's care," Claire went on, gentler now. "Whatever the insurance didn't cover, whatever comes. Quietly. No press. No strings. A company that spent $40,000 a year, hiding from what it owed, can afford to spend it keeping a good man's daughter safe instead." "I can't let you. You didn't know who I was," Claire said, and now her own voice was not quite steady. "On that plane, you didn't know my name, or my company, or that you'd ever see me again. You sat still for 4 hours anyway. You caught a child's toy in a storm. You folded a scarf like it was made of glass. Nobody was watching, Mr. Cole. That's the whole point. A breath. My mother used to say, 'Kindness is what you do when no one knows your name.' I stopped believing that somewhere along the way. You reminded me. So please, let me." And Ethan Cole, who won no arguments for a living, who had $11 in his wallet the night they met and a folded scarf over his heart, finally let someone be good to him. "All right," he said. "All right." Some weeks later, there was a photograph on his phone that he looked at more than he'd admit. Lily, pink-cheeked and running through a park, the folded gray scarf trailing from her hand like a banner, streaming out behind her in the wind while she ran, and did not stop.